Hey, what's up, guys and gals? It's the Tyrant here. Happy Saturday to you. Hope everyone's having a great weekend so far. And welcome back to my weekly Q&A sessions where you guys ask the questions and I give you the answers. Before we dive into this week's Q&A, I do want to give just sort of a PSA to you. I've had people recently message me on Facebook. In previous videos, I've stated I really don't want people doing that. I don't respond to those messages. Really, the only reason I have Facebook up now is for people who don't want to get on Twitter for whatever reason. Not really sure why that would be since it's a free service. And the only reason I use Facebook now is just to sort of mirror the videos that I post on Twitter. So basically when I make a new video, I'll, most of the time anyway, post it on Facebook. But when I first started out, it was easy to juggle, you know, Facebook, Twitter, and MythicTyrant.com. But now that my site is significantly larger, I've got over 700 videos, each with their own comment section. So that's 700 conversation threads right there, over 700. I've got my Twitter account. I've got the premium Discord. So it's a lot for one person to handle, which is the main reason why I also don't take messages on Facebook, or my Mythic Tyrant account anyway. So please don't do that. Please don't take offense to it if you send something and I don't answer it. Again, it's just not something I do because I don't have the time for it. Your best way to reach out to me is just to hit me up on Twitter at MythicTyrant, and of course a link to my Twitter feed can be found in the description below as well. If you aren't already following me on Twitter, I highly recommend it, especially since in the near future I'll be working more closely with awesome Halo content creators like Hidden Xperia, Axeman, and Late Night Gaming. Really looking forward to releasing that content for you, and I hope you are too. So for those of you who aren't sure how this works exactly, it's quite simple. If you want to submit a question for to be considered for next week's Q&A, all you got to do is submit the question in the comments section below, or you can hit me up on Twitter, once again, at MythicTyrant. So we're going to go ahead and kick off this week's Q&A session. Our first question of the week comes from Halo Fans Unite. Always good to see you, Halo fans. And he asks, why don't you get, oh boy, why don't you just get a different job and do part-time YouTube? In parentheses, he has, I understand you would make less videos, but it depends on what job you get, but I'll keep trying to donate. Well, first of all, thank you, Halo Fans Unite, for your statement there. It's one that I've answered in previous videos. What I will do before I answer his question, this ties into it. Someone else made a comment last week, and it wasn't disrespectful in any way. It was a great, constructive comment by someone that has posted many times in my community. He's a great guy. His name is Doug Bingo, and he stated, you know, that he loves my videos, but he was a little concerned that I was talking about this Patreon and the store stuff a lot more than I usually do, and it's sort of derailing from my usual video game banter. And let me tell you, Doug, you are 100% right. And it's something that I don't want to do, quite simply put. It's not something that I figure is something people want to hear. It's not really, you know, contributing anything to Halo. Unfortunately, you know, last month I was hit pretty hard by YouTube's new algorithm changes and their new policy changes, in addition to what I'd already been suffering through, which is Adpocalypse. And so the reason I typically only say this in the Q&As, and this is primarily because my Q&A session every week is just, you know, me just, you know, being very off the cuff with you guys. You're like family to me, you're friends, and I feel like I can just talk regularly, and this is the only real setting where I feel like that's appropriate. With other videos, you know, I tag it on at the end every time I say subscribe and all that other stuff, but this is really the only time where I talk about it a little bit more. And the main reason I keep bringing it up is primarily because, as I sort of mentioned earlier with the Facebook thing, not everyone watches every video on this site, even, you know, people who are dedicated subscribers. And so especially people who are newcomers, they might miss it. And unfortunately, if no one knows about it, no one's going to contribute. And unfortunately, that is important to keep this channel going on. I know it's a pain in the butt. I know you don't want to hear about it all the time, especially those of you who tune in every single week to this Q&A. But if I'm going to make this work and I'm going to conquer what the new standards that YouTube has put in place, this is something that I need to do to make that happen. Hopefully, everything gets fixed. Maybe things will get fixed on YouTube's end. Maybe things will get better on the Patreon site. Maybe things will get better on the Mythic Tyrant store. Both you can find. I'll go ahead and throw up links on the screen so that you can check it out. But yeah, if those go well, then hopefully next year, if the site survives, I won't need to I won't need to talk about it anymore, so it can be a thing of the past. But you know, as far as going to people not always getting it, this leads into our question, because it's something that I have answered. Again, nothing against you, Halo Fans Unite. I do not expect everyone on my site to watch every single video, especially since I post every single day. So it's a good question, and here's the answer for you. This is something that I know that I can't do. Having a full-time job, a healthy family life, and doing YouTube full-time. When I first started out doing this whole YouTube thing, I worked 40 to 50 hours a week. It was only 4 shifts, usually 10 to 12 hours long, but I ended up having, you know, 3.5 days off. So it was pretty easy to balance the two out. I was also single back then. Fast forward a couple of years, and I ended up taking a job where I worked normal work hours, what most people consider to be normal, which is 8 to 5 Monday through Friday. At that time, I was also engaged to my now wife. So you may, if you look back to the end of 2014, going through almost the middle of 2015, there is a huge, and I mean massive, drop in the number of videos that I actually produce. In fact, I went, I think at one point, a couple of months without posting anything at all. And it wasn't because I didn't want to, it's just because I didn't have the time for it. My Halo 2 anniversary stuff that I wanted to post, I worked on, you know, I chiseled at it a little bit more every night, but I just wasn't making a lot of progress. And that sort of goes back to what goes into actually making these videos, and I don't think people really fully grasp it. I think some of my colleagues can sort of vouch for me on this one, but videos can take quite a while to make. The Q&As alone, to give you sort of an idea, actually, you know what, I'll go a little bit further than that. The Monday videos that I do, typically these are the most time, I spend more time on those than others, typically speaking, with the Q&A coming in second. And just to sort of give you an idea, especially when I do theory videos about Halo 6 or talking about different characters in the game, first I have to think of an idea. And this can take a while. I have to think of the idea and how I want to present it to you guys. And then once I come up with the idea, I have to either write a script or I have to put bullet points in so that I have my thoughts organized, and that takes some time. Once that's done, then I actually have to record the audio. Now, once that's done, and that takes a while too, because I want to try to get it as close to being perfect as possible. And not to mention, I've got so much noise to worry about because I live, you know, right outside of Washington, D.C., so we have EMS vehicles, we have helicopters, noisy neighbors, you name it. And so, in addition to that, once I have the audio recorded, I've got to put something in the background. Sometimes it's something as simple as gameplay, like I usually do with the Q&As. Other times, I have to do a presentation. And so, once that's done, then I have to do all the editing and everything, and then I've got to render the video, which takes some time. Then I've got to upload the video, and then I respond to the comments. Overall, just the Q&As alone, which don't involve the script process, but the Q&As alone take about 6 hours to do. Now, the average workday is about 8. For me, the Q&A is what I consider a medium video when it comes to labor. So it's a medium labor video, whereas the Monday videos are typically more high-end, sometimes ranging from 12 to 14 hours. The top 25 hardest Halo missions of all time took days to do. And so it's not as easy as you think it is. But we get to another point, and the question is, would I want to continue it? We have to sort of look at Naked Eli here. You know, again, another famous Halo YouTuber who dropped out of the community, or the YouTube scene altogether, almost 2 years ago. And I mean, when he dropped out, he cut it off. That was it. When you reach a certain point, and I'm sure some of my colleagues can vouch for me on this, you're either in or you're out. When you reach when you become a public figure or a celebrity status, you're in or out, because people are going to constantly be asking you questions, wanting to get references to it. If you don't answer them, then you're considered an asshole, and it's kind of a complicated scene. I'm not going to lie. And so, where's the motivation at that point? Right now, just because of everything that's been happening with YouTube and adpocalypse, and corporations pulling out of ads, and YouTube themselves making it even more difficult to monetize videos and to get views on your channel, something happens there. You start losing motivation because you're working hard, you're doing all this work, but for who? you know, if no one's going to see it and you're not going to get paid for it, it's kind of like, well, I guess I'm sort of doing it for me, but it's also very time consuming, and because it's in the public eye, you're going to get feedback on it at the same time, and not all of it's good. And so, you know, it's why would I, is the question. Now, I've already talked to premium members on this site, and I've already said that no matter what happens with MythicTyrant.com, for people who continue to donate through Patreon, I have no problem chatting with you guys in Discord and occasionally doing community game nights. I wouldn't be streaming them, of course, but at least you could still interact with me. You know, if you're honestly paying, you're still supporting the name. I definitely want to at least make it worth your while in some way, shape, or form. But this goes into another topic here, and that's the comment section itself. Okay, now generally speaking, especially in the Q&As, I have a very good crowd. You guys are awesome people. I'm so glad to have you here every week. But typically when I look at the comment section, commenters fall under one of three categories. The first is they want to say something positive about your video or you. You know, they really, you know, enjoy your content or something along those lines, and it's always good hearing from them. It's always good to get that little ego boost, just so that you feel good about doing the next video as well. The second type of commenter is usually someone who's trying to get a discussion going. Maybe you know, the topic of the video reached them in some way, and they'd love to get more insight on it, you know, and get that ball rolling. Usually it's a statement of some kind, you know, just a reaction of some sort. And those are always fun comments too, because, you know, one of my favorite things I see in the comment section is when a conversation starts going between different people and everyone getting engaged in it, and because everyone's so interested in the Halo lore or that particular game's lore, and it's a lot of fun. And so those are always great comments too. But then there's the third group of commenters, and I think you know who I'm getting at here. Those are the people who post bad things. It's easy to say this is the troll category, but not all of them are trolls. When I think of trolls, I think of people who are just trying to get attention. But not everyone is. Some people are just trying to be assholes. Some might sometimes think they might have seriously something wrong with them. You know, some of these comments can range from simple, your video sucks, to fuck you, to delete your channel, and then escalating it to go kill yourself, and I've even gotten a death threat before. And let me just say, for those of you out there, again, I know this doesn't really apply to the folks in the Q&A typically, that's not even remotely funny, and you shouldn't do it. As a guy who was an IT engineer for 14 years, and whose father was a police officer for over 35 years, I can tell you that you may think you have anonymity on the internet. You don't. Trust me, you don't. So that's a road you don't want to go down. If you're threatening someone's life, don't even remotely think about that. If I have to, you know, even though I delete those comments and typically ban the user from the site, I do take screenshots of them in case I need to turn them into the proper authorities. So don't go down that road, please. Always try to be your best, okay? We had this conversation a few weeks ago where, you know, especially with how polarized we are right now in this nation and so forth, if everyone would just try to be a better person, regardless of what your beliefs are, your political beliefs, your opinions, whatever, then we can all get through this. We can all get along together, and I'm hoping that we can see that. You know, I think overall I've got a great community. I've gotten compliments from most of you about it, you know, saying that generally speaking the community is very clean. Part of that's because not only are you guys such awesome people, but I've taken a harder stance when it comes to moderating my site. And if comments and commenters start getting out of hand for whatever reason, I take action, because I don't want that negativity fueling, you know, especially some of my younger viewers out there. That's not fair to them. It's not fair to the people who come here to have fun and just enjoy the community experience overall, as well as the content that I produce. So I want you all to keep that in mind. Fortunately, that's not most of you. Most of you are very good people, and I appreciate that. How that spills over into the subject, though, is imagine a real-world situation where you have a job where people tell you how much they hate you. And even if it's just a small amount of people, it's going to get under your skin. Now, on top of that, your boss comes in and says, we're going to cut your salary by 70%. Most people in that situation would start to look for another career. It's not a comfortable place to be anymore. There's no reason to continue. You know, when you look at the YouTube situation, even though those bad commenters are a very, very small minority, so were the people who put the whole adpocalypse into full swing as well. It was a minority of people, not a majority. Some were, headliners like PewDiePie, but that's all it took for big corporations to pull out. And so, sometimes that influences it too. If I stop doing MythicTyrant stuff and I'm focusing on my family and my career, do I really want those types of comments haunting me down the road? And the answer is no. Not if they're, I want to continue making these stuff, but I want people to be able to appreciate it, say that they can, help contribute if they can, know that the site means that much to them that they're willing to pay just as little as $1 a month to keep this site going. And so part of it's because, to overall sum up the answer to the question, part of it's because of time constraints. The other is because if I have to get to that point, it's also going to be a lack of motivation and a lack of wanting to continue contributing to something that really isn't, getting anything back. And I feel like a lot of people with jobs that they hate, they kind of feel the same way, except I actually love my job and I hope I get to keep it. So we've been talking about this, holy shit, for 15 minutes now. I do apologize. Let's go ahead and move on. Our next question, that was a good question, by the way, Halo fans unite, and thank you. Our next question comes from Blackwing799, and Blackwing asks, is there any way that Halo could still innovate the FPS genre? Halo 1 set the standard for a genre, Halo 2 defined the multiplayer, and Halo 3 had the community features. I'm never going to say no to that because I don't consider myself to be that imaginative, but there are a lot of people out there who are working on things that we haven't even thought of yet. I think because FPS games have come such a long way in the last 16 years, I think people tend to be borrowing concepts from other franchises rather than coming up with new things themselves. With the SWAT system, to me, that was a new thing, even though, you saw other games out there like Ghost Recon and Rainbow Six that had similar features. I liked the way Halo did it. So I think it's possible that they certainly could set a standard. We've talked in the past about how they can make Halo 6 more open world, how they can make it so that you have more options throughout the campaign. Maybe you could make choices as to what missions you go to next and that sort of thing. I think there are many different ways that can be innovative, and hopefully we see that continue in Halo 6. I'm rooting for them, and I hope you are too, Blackwing. Our next question comes from Maximum Rage Quit. I love that name. And Rage Quit asks, for Halo 6, assuming Chief, Arbiter, Locke, and Buck are playable characters, would you like an option similar to GTA 5 where you can swap to any character at any given time? Not really. I think that's an interesting question, but really I don't think it's necessary. I think we already have enough options on the table, and really there wouldn't be much point in it considering the way Halo games are typically made. In GTA, it makes sense because you have such a huge world. And to me, that, if you're going to cover more ground, it takes you a while just to get around the map in and of itself. I've driven around the map several times, and it's fun to do just as a way to relax. And sometimes, believe it or not, I do exactly that. I'll put on weather modifiers or whatever, and I'll just get in a car and take the interstate around the entire map. But I don't think the same concept really works well for Halo because it's a first-person shooter, and it's not nearly as, it's a semi-open world environment, but it's not it's not an open world environment. So I hope that answers your question, Maximum Rage Quit. It's an interesting concept, but I don't think that's one that's going to apply well to Halo. Our next question comes from Brian Webb. And Brian asks, like all your fans, I love Halo, but I've never played either Halo Wars, okay, so he's saying either Halo Wars or Halo Wars 2. With all the Awakening, the Nightmare hype, I'm wondering if I should try both of the Halo Wars games. Have you ever done a review for the first Halo Wars? Would you recommend it to all Halo fans as part of the complete Halo experience? So that's a great question, Brian. I appreciate it. To answer it, not only do I have one review of Halo Wars, I actually have two of them. One's a lot older and not nearly as well done. The other one is, I think I made it earlier this year. And I have a review series on the site, so you can definitely check it out. I have a review for both Halo Wars and Halo Wars 2. My personal opinion, so I gave it an on sale rating, which is a B basically for me. I liked it. I will say that I don't think it's for everybody because it's an RTS game as opposed to an FPS. Not everyone who plays an FPS version of Halo is going to like the real-time strategy version of it. It's a very different type of gameplay. Having said that, I love RTS games. I think that RTS and Halo was a perfect marriage. I think gameplay-wise, they did a great job. I think they could have eased up on the use of the enemy super weapons a little bit in certain areas, especially on Legendary. But ultimately, I thought, yeah, it's certainly a game worth buying. You know, my other ratings, you know, are like rental, freebie, and dumpster fire. Those are the ones that fall below on sale. And of course, the only two that are above it are full price and collector's item. So basically, I gave it a solid B. It's a good game. If you're a big Halo fan, you love Halo lore, you are going to love the Halo Wars saga, both Halo Wars and Halo Wars 2. And Awakening of the Nightmare was an absolute incredible expansion. I really enjoyed it. It was great seeing the Flood back for the first time in quite a while. So definitely, if you love lore, both games are a great pickup. So thanks for asking that, Brian. I appreciate it. Our next question comes from Assassin Wolf Gaming. That's a cool name. And Assassin Wolf asks, would you consider doing more Titanfall 2 content? And would you... Oh, okay, he stopped it right there. Okay, so he's asking if I would do more Titanfall 2 content, and he also asked, what YouTubers do you watch outside of the Halo community? So these are good questions. All right, so first of all, I love Titanfall 2. I've done the campaign here as well, and I really enjoyed it. I thought it probably had the best campaign of 2016 of any game out there. And I haven't really delved into the multiplayer yet. I'd love to. I hear nothing but good things about it. They really don't abuse the whole microtransaction system. They do have customizable armors and stuff, like, you know, basically anything that's cosmetic that you can pick up, but nothing that would change the game. It doesn't make the game pay to win. So I love Titanfall 2. Once the site starts being balanced out a little bit more, I don't see why not. I love playing Titanfall 2, and if you guys want me to play it more, again, just let me know. You know, hit me up in the comments below or on Twitter. So thanks for asking that, Assassin Wolf. I appreciate it. Our next question comes from NorthAunt66637, and NorthAunt asks, Tyrant, what will become of the Reds and Blues from Red vs. Blue now that Season 15 is over and Church is possibly still alive? So I'm going to be honest with you, North. I stopped watching Red vs. Blue after Season 11. I'm one of those folks who, once a series gets to a certain point, it needs to stop. You know, my first thought for this type of scenario was the old series, The X-Files. I love The X-Files. It's my favorite show, but I believe it overstayed its welcome. It should have ended at the 7th season, and it should have, you know, instead of having the season 7 finale that it did, just make it like a 2 or 3-parter and bring it to a close. Instead, they dragged it out for another 2 seasons, and they brought it back again recently. They even had another movie, and I'm just like, Mr. Carter, just let X-Files die. I thought, you know, it was a great show back then, but I don't need to see more of it, and I don't want to see it being changed. You know, I don't want to have a different feeling towards it just because the later seasons aren't what I was expecting. With Red vs. Blue, I thought the perfect close was at the end of Season 10, and if they had stopped it right there, it would have been classic. I watched Season 11. I was not impressed by it, you know, and these are people that I've worked with before. So I haven't caught up on Season 12, 13, or 14, or 15 yet. People are telling me it's great. Maybe I'll check it out at some point in the future, but right now, it's just not on the top of my list. So to answer your question, Northaunt, your guess is as good as mine. Our next question comes from Matt Burkle. And Matt asks, hey, Tyrant, here's my question. Do you think a Terminus Firefight would be good in Halo 6? Honestly, I think it would be fun. What do you think? Well, the Terminus Firefight that I know of, if you're referring to the one from Halo Wars 2, isn't really that different from standard firefight. I mean, there are some objectives that are added to it. Typically, it's just you hold a certain area, though, and you try to fight off as many waves as you can, as long as you can. What I would like to see, I would like to see 2 things. First of all, or make that 3. Warzone Firefight, I still greatly enjoy it. I'd love to see it brought back for Halo 6, but I'd also love to see standard Firefight brought back as well for those who just want to sit back and, you know, enjoy, you know, playing against infinite waves of enemies and having heavily customizable ways to do that. In addition, and this sort of covers your question, I'd love to see a firefight with objectives. you know, so that you can have those, but you can maybe have to capture like a territories type thing where you have to capture different territories while also fighting against AI. You could even do a capture the flag type scenario. I think there's a lot of ways they can do a firefight type thing, and I hope that they explore those options in Halo 6. So I hope that answers your question, Matt Burkle, and thank you. And our star question of the week comes from Claude Assassin. Always good to hear from you, Claude. And Claude Assassin asks, hey Tyrant, in Resident Evil 6, I'm not sure about anyone's opinion, but I'm not asking about the game, there was a game mode called Agent Hunt, I believe, where you invade another person's campaign by use of a creature, and your goal is to kill them, but the game mode itself was broken. But what if they implemented the same game mode, but not broken, and is fun to play? And there would be a good a point system or EXP system or whatever crazy randomness 343 goes for. By the way, Tyrant, I hope your site gets back to working order, and I love your content. Thank you, Claude. I appreciate it. So what he's asking here is, wouldn't it be cool if you could join someone else's campaign in progress, but as an enemy player, like an elite or a hunter or something along those lines? That is a very interesting concept, and you know, I never got to play that aspect of Resident Evil 6. I do own the game, but I never finished it. I think I started Leon Kennedy's campaign, and then Halo 4 came out, so I stopped playing it, unfortunately. I'll have to get back to it at some point. I heard it was a decent game, depending on who you asked. But that would be a really cool thing. I think that it would definitely make things more interesting. I'm not sure how effective it would be in Halo, because think of the case of elites for a second. Downing them, even on Legendary, isn't that difficult. For most of them, it's just a matter of hitting with an overcharged plasma shot and then finishing off with a ballistic weapon of some sort. And of course, you know, in Resident Evil it was a bit different, because you had a large, very wide range of monsters out there. Zombies, yep, okay. But when you came across something like Nemesis or a Hunter or a Chimera, any of those things, or a Licker, if you will, that was a game changer, because those are monsters you tried to avoid because they were just way too powerful, and a lot of them could get you in one hit. There really aren't any creatures like that in Halo except for those dreaded jackal snipers. Now, maybe that could be an option too. Like I said, it would be interesting because, of course, having a human player fight against you in campaign might change the dynamics of it. I don't know if it could be implemented into Halo unless they had some sort of super alien involved. You know, a souped-up Promethean or something like that. But it certainly is possible. I guess maybe you could be a Promethean Knight Commander or something like that. It's something that I think would be a game changer and give people more options. I'm not sure how it would work exactly, but if they decided that they wanted to go that route, I would certainly support it. I think it's a great innovative idea. We haven't seen it in first-person shooters before, as far as I know. The closest thing we've seen is a game like Evolved or Friday the 13th, where essentially what you do there is one player's the bad guy, and then you have good guys who are either supposed to escape or defeat the bad guy. But we haven't seen that in a game like Call of Duty or Halo or Star Wars Battlefront, and it's something that I think, if done right, it could be implemented. It certainly could be. And it could open up a lot of new possibilities for the Halo campaigns if it's done correctly, and that's the key word there. The only way I could think of that they could try to implement this without it being a complete blowover is introducing a beta for it first. Instead of necessarily doing a multiplayer beta, which they can do that too, they also do a campaign beta where you go through like a practice mission. Maybe it isn't in campaign, or maybe it's just, or isn't in the final campaign, or maybe it's only part of a campaign mission where you can implement this idea of taking on the role of an alien and going after the actual player. Again, I don't know if they're going to implement the squad system in Halo 6. I believe that if you're playing that type of mode, having a squad system working against you would make things vastly more complicated. But the interesting part is they would have to do it without you being able to recognize who the player actually is. So there couldn't be like a tag over him or her or anything like that. It would just have to be a guessing game. You maybe get a notification on the screen, maybe in the top right corner, that says so-and-so joined your game, as an enemy, but doesn't tell you what type of enemy or where they are. And so that could work. It would certainly give a new point of suspense to Halo and a new dynamic for sure. I would be interested to at least try it out. I guess an option couldn't hurt, but I also don't want them to stretch themselves so thin with Halo 6 that we come up with a lackluster campaign and a lackluster multiplayer. So I hope that answers your question, Claude Assassin. That was a really good one and a very creative question. So thank you for bringing it up. So that brings a close to this week's Q&A. Let me know in the comments below what you think of this concept for a campaign. You can let me know in the comments below or hit me up on Twitter at MythicTyrant. A link to my Twitter feed can be found in the description below. And if you want to become a premium member of this site for as little as $1 a month, get to participate in exclusive contests and get rewards for it as well, go ahead and check out my Patreon site. If we get enough people on there, we can save this site at least through 2018. And of course, if you can't donate monthly, that's completely understandable. I know, especially for the younger guys out there, you know, it's not your fight. Hopefully this is for the adults, but the holidays are coming up. And we have a new Mythic Tyrant store. There are dozens of items that you can choose from. You're talking about t-shirts, USB drives, phone covers, and even wireless keyboards. Lots of cool stuff on there. You know, if you want to pick up a piece of Mythic Tyrant apparel, that is the way to go. So definitely check out that site as well. And of course, if you like this video and you want to see more and you want to stay up to date on all of your Halo news, tips, tricks, and secrets, don't forget to click that subscribe button for more great content every single day right here on MythicTyrant.com. And of course, if you really want to help out this site and you can't really afford to donate anything or anything like that, one of the best ways you can do it to help counter this whole YouTube things that they've added recently, go ahead and click the notification icon as well so that you know instantly when I posted a new video. That's something that would really truly help me out. Thanks so much, guys and gals, for watching. I hope everyone has a great weekend. I will catch you all right back here next time. And as always, I'm the Tyrant, signing off.